Testing your application on one of the most popular platforms such as iOS is very important, but it's important to have variety, not just test it on one or two devices. For example, you have a whole range of iPad and iPhone devices with a whole range of OSs. So to give your application the stability, backwards compatibility, and security, it's recommended to test your application across a plethora of iOS devices and a combination of different iOS platforms. So there's no escaping the fact that if you want to be an iOS app developer, you need a Macintosh computer. If you don't have a Mac, then you can't really be an iOS developer. Once you have a Macintosh computer, the next step is to install a free tool called Xcode that's available through the Apple App Store. It's completely free, and this is the development software for iOS. This development software comes with lots of niceties, such as the iOS simulator and a whole host of other tools. It also comes with GitHub, which is beneficial to us because there are some Phonegap plugins that are only hosted on GitHub, so you will need a version of Git installed. So once you install Xcode, you've got everything pretty much taken care of. However, there are some more pieces of software that you need to install to get a successful iOS simulation. So firstly, in the lecture OSX Wi-Fi testing, I showed you how to install the correct Node.js version and also install the Phonegap program through the Node package manager. You must do that, and then on top of that, we now need to open our terminal again and install two more pieces of software through the Node package manager. The first one is Cordova. Now, I'll explain the differences between Phonegap and Cordova in a later lecture. But having Phonegap and Cordova gives you all the tools that you need, and they are completely compatible with each other. And on top of that, we also need to install iOS-sim. So firstly, I'm going to type into my terminal sudo npm install -g Cordova. Then once that's installed, I'll now type in sudo npm install -g, and this time I want to install the iOS-sim package. Now to clarify, you need Xcode, Node.js, Phonegap, Cordova, and the iOS sim program installed. Once you have all these programs installed, we can now take a look at running our app on the iOS simulator. Now before we do this, we need to first of all target our app's root directory. So my app is located on the desktop in the Cartoon Smart directory. So I'll type in cd desktop /Cartoon Smart, and now our terminal is focused on our Cartoon Smart directory. Then we need to add in the iOS platform. This will create an Xcode project that can be compiled to the iOS simulator. So now I'll just type in Cordova platform add iOS. So if I go ahead and take a look at my project now, and then go into the platforms directory, you'll notice iOS has now shown up there. Now if we go inside of the iOS directory, you'll notice we have the Xcode project file. You can double click on that and open up the project in Xcode. Now this isn't necessary, but it illustrates a point of what's happening. For every application that you want to compile for iOS, you need to add the iOS platform, which generates a project. And then when you go to run your application on the iOS simulator, what happens is it takes your www directory with all your HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and all the other files you have, copies those files and pastes them into this project. Then, once the files have been copied across and everything is up to date, it compiles this project, and then you end up with an app that you can install on the iOS simulator, and potentially you can open up this project in Xcode and send it off to the Apple App Store. Now, just to get you familiar with the Cordova commands, what I'd like to do is add in multiple platforms and remove multiple platforms to sort of get you introduced to this. So if I go back to the terminal, which is focusing on my Cartoon Smart directory, I can then type in Cordova platform add, and then I can type in multiple platform names, such as Android, and WP8, which means Windows Phone 8. You'll notice now that there is 2 more directories with 2 other projects in there. We have the Android project and we also have the WP8 directory, which contains the Windows Phone 8 project. And let's say I want to compile for Android. Well, when that happens, again, the same process. It copies the www directory and it pastes it within this project, and then it compiles the project and sends it off to the Android emulator, or you could take the APK file and install it on your device. So this is a rudimentary introduction, but now what I can do is remove both of those platforms by simply typing in Cordova platform RM, which stands for remove, and then type in the platforms I want to remove, or just a single platform I want to remove. So I'll remove the Android and the WP8 platforms that I've added in. Here is the command line for all of the different platforms you can add for all the different operating systems. So now we're ready to test our app on the iOS simulator. So again, my terminal is targeting my app's root directory. It is always important, and if you ever get an error saying such and such directory is not a Phonegap or Cordova project, then you know your terminal isn't focused on the right directory. So again, it's very important that we target the app's root directory, and then I can type in Cordova run iOS. This will now, first of all, go through the process of copying the www directory into our iOS project to make sure all of our HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and all the other files and assets are up to date. Then it will compile the project, and then finally, after compiling the project, the iOS simulator will pop up and it should open our application automatically. So the default simulator will open up. However, there is a range of iPhone and iPad devices that you may want to test your app on. So in order to find out what iOS simulators are available to you, let's go ahead and go back to the terminal and type in iOS-sim and then type show device types. This will then list out all the different device types and the iOS version that is installed on that particular simulator. So let's say that I want to run my app on the iPad Air. Well, all I need to do is type in Cordova run iOS --target equals, and then in the quotation marks, I can type in iPad Air. Now, please make sure that you type it exactly as you see it in that list. So everything needs to be capitalized that needs to be capitalized, such as the P in iPad and A in Air. And once I hit return, again, the same process will happen. The www directory will be copied in, the project will get compiled, and thirdly, the project will open up on the simulator as soon as the simulator has finished booting up. And there is my application running on the iPad Air simulator.